Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Miller. I am a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And I have really good news. It's so exciting. So I'm thrilled to share that the Recovery Daily podcast was spotlighted in the Loudoun Now newspaper. Yeah, I was talking about it yesterday. I still don't know if you call it a newspaper. It's not on paper. So it's on the website, and I will put a link in the description of the episode for today so that you can go out and read it. But I was pleased as punch. That's what I was, pleased as punch. That I had the incredible opportunity to chat with the reporter at Loudoun Now about my recovery journey in both stroke and sobriety and talk about the inspiration behind the podcast. And it was absolutely an honor to see my story this morning published. And believe it or not, I already received an email from a local stroke survivor, and we're going to be talking on the phone either tomorrow or the next day. So I have absolutely poured my heart into the podcast, and I want to offer support and strength and hope to others that are navigating in recovery from alcoholism, stroke, and mental health challenges. And this feature in Loudoun Now really sheds light on the resilience that we can discover in the face of adversity and the power of sharing experiences. So check out the article if you would like to just kind of, I don't know, clap your hands like me. And you can learn more about my journey, the purpose of the podcast, and a little more about how I pick my episodes and all that good stuff. So please help me to spread the message that the article came out, and we can keep building hope and growth together. So your support means the world to me, and I'm so appreciative that you already tune into the podcast. So today's topic is on setting sights for progress and defining growth and goals. So what I want to talk about is what progress looks like and how growth looks depending on what lens we're looking at it from, and how we can redefine what progress means based on how we perceive the destination, if that makes sense. So progress in recovery seems to just almost walk beside me like a shadow. You know, it's like it's going just as fast as I'm willing to move, and depending on how the sun is hitting me, it may fall far behind me, and I keep moving. And there are days that the shadow is right up beside me, and there are days that it stretches really, really far back behind me. You know, it never seems to be in front of me, I'll tell you that. But so how often do we find ourselves setting goals and pushing for progress, yet feeling a sense of frustration that we're not seeing results as quickly as we hope? And I can absolutely vouch for that happening with me, you know. And I've come to realize as I continue to understand what it's like to be a human being that has faced things that are really life-threatening health challenges, and how a human being comes back from that with grace, with gratitude, and with the desire to be more than they were before the health challenges. And that can be analyzed in different ways depending on what recovery you're looking at, right? So, um, me after sobriety, absolutely. There's no question that I'm a better at a lot of things, better at being a human being, I think, than I was when I was drinking. Um, but this stroke survival aspect of it is like, I was pretty happy with who I was and what I was doing. I felt like I was successful. I've talked about that recently. So, how do I look at my post stroke life and think that I could possibly be better than I was before, when everything that I had worked for up until that point was just ripped out from under me? Everything that I was doing, all of my goals are like, it's like the record just came screeching to a halt, and they're like, party's over. Everybody's got to go home. That's what it felt like, and so I wanted to talk about how, depending on where we set our sights, that's how far often we can go. So for example, one saying comes to mind for me, which is the reach for the moon, and you may just touch the stars. That's a good one for me. I think about it all the time. I say it whenever I have the opportunity to say it because I just think it's really kind of a beautiful saying. And I've also talked a lot, kind of later after the first episode. So, probably a couple months in, I started shifting this mindset from saying, I know that there's something waiting for me on the other side of this. I know that things are gonna be okay, that kind of thing. And then after a couple months, I realized, wait, things are okay. They're okay right now. I'm not trying to get somewhere, and I'm not waiting for things to be okay when I get there. And things aren't waiting for me on the other side. Things are right here. Things are in my grasp. Things are right under my feet. And all I needed to do was notice them and embrace them, and uh, more easily said, that's embracing the journey and not the destination, and embracing growth, however small that looks, however long that takes, and embracing the person that I am each day, the person who is fighting, the person who is pushing through, and the person who is vulnerable enough to cry on a podcast to whoever is listening, not caring who's listening. I just want to be authentic. I just want to show people that this thing that I'm going through right now is ugly and it's dirty, and some days really suck. And I want to show those days that suck, like I talked about yesterday, because then after that, when I have a good day, it really shows what strength and resilience are. But you can only see that if you see the sucky days. So, progress, as I have mentioned in other episodes, isn't always tangible in this recovery that I'm in. In fact, the past few days, I feel like I've had a little regression with my language, like my ability to choose words and eloquently finish sentences. Like, for some reason, I keep really struggling to finish sentences right now. It's like somebody said recently in one of the stroke survivor support groups, he said, talking is like having a panic attack every time I open my mouth. It's like, and I really understood what he was saying. Um, Lately, when I'm trying to talk, it's like I keep having to pause to think about, okay, what was I saying? What am I gonna say? And what are the words to fill that sentence in? It's like taking me a lot of effort. I don't know. So you may not be able to tell. I mentioned actually a couple episodes ago, I was talking and I said something about, for you avid listeners, you'll remember this. It was just a couple episodes ago. I said that my brain wasn't firing on all cylinders, and you can probably tell. That's what I said. And I went back and listened to the episode because I wanted to hear how bad it was. And yet, when I was listening, I couldn't really tell what the same thing that I was feeling in my brain, like my inability to find the words, it wasn't coming across when I listened to it. So, like, today is even worse. When I interviewed with the Loudon Now reporter, it was really bad. And I just kept having a really hard time finding, like, I don't know, just talking in a flowy way. I kept having to stop and figure out my words and stuff. So, anyway, I'll listen back to this one and see if I can tell. Total tangent. Sorry about that. So, yeah, I get the point was that progress is not always tangible. And sometimes I have good days and bad days. Sometimes I have bad weeks and then I'll pick back up where I left off like the week before that. So, it's sometimes just no matter what today looks like, I keep having to move forward and hope that my shadow will catch up with me. You know what I mean? Like my progress will catch up with me. I like that analogy. I came up with that on the spot. So you're welcome. um, so I've also come to realize that progress isn't about reaching a goal. And I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking about, what is my goal? Is my goal to go back to the job that I had? Is my goal to be a marketing director? Or do I have a new goal? Like, I don't know. I'm not going to answer that question right now because I don't know. But what, in all honesty, I was thinking, if I'm really just coming clean, is I was thinking, do I want to get better? And that may sound really strange, but what I was thinking of is, do I set my goal for 100% recovery? Is that what I'm doing? Because if I set my goal for 100% recovery, I tend to have expectations and hopes and dreams, and I'm an overachiever. And if I set my goal there, I don't want to be disappointed. So it's like an oxymoron, right? If I set my goal to 100% recovery, I will probably recover further than if I didn't. If I don't believe that I can recover 100%, then I'm absolutely not going to recover 100%. If, I've heard over and over again about doctors telling stroke survivors, you're never going to walk again. You're never going to be able to stand up again. And you're never going to be able to talk again. And countless time after time after time, these people are walking again, and they're talking again, and they're standing up again. Um, and that's because I think they are a person of resilience. They are not willing to have somebody else define their goal. Yeah. And I am not letting anyone else define my goal, for sure. Um, I don't even think I'm there yet. Like, I'm still trying to figure out what is wrong with me. Like, we know now after last week, we know that I don't have a visual system issue, that my vision system is intact. So now we're moving over to looking at my vestibular system. And man, it's been hard to find a neurotologist. The only similar doctor that people have heard of is a otolaryngologist. But there is something called a neurotologist, and it seems like those are, I don't know, one and the same or something. They can't be. They have different names, but whoever is a neurotologist, they're always also a otolaryngologist. So I'm trying to find one that is in my health insurance and such. Anyway, another tangent. So what I'm learning, and as I'm trying to design, construct my goals, like where I believe that I can get to, like, I don't know. I don't even know how to articulate it. It's why wouldn't my goal be to recover 100%? Why wouldn't it be? Um, because I'm afraid that that's not realistic. I think that's why. I'm kind of I'm thinking out loud, but that's what I think the problem is that I don't believe it myself, that that's possible, because I've been dealing with this for 2.5 years and I have had zero change at all. I mean, the progress that I've made over the past 6 months is that I have medication that has stopped the sharp pains in my head. That's the progress. It's not physical progress, it is medication induced, like you still can't see correctly, like that hasn't changed at all, but we're just going to make the pain stop. So I still can't do things like I could do before my stroke. It just doesn't hurt as bad anymore, but I still can't see, if that makes sense. Um, so it's about, I think, what I'm doing now is just focusing on my lessons learned, um, gaining all kinds of humility, and navigating all of this with grace. You know, um, I want to I want to figure out how to shift my focus from from, I don't even know how to say it. Like, I want to figure out how to shift my focus from you, your goal is to recover as far as you think you can. Like, that's what kind of goal is that? That's no goal. Um, I need to not keep seeking immediate outcomes because that is what I'm looking for. I'm looking to go to, okay, I went to the neuro-ophthalmologist. They said, I don't know what's wrong with you. Try a neurotologist. Well, I immediately am thinking in my head, I'm going to go to the neurotologist. They're going to know what's wrong with me. And then they'll they'll tell me what I need to do. So switching from immediate outcomes to this more of a super long term improvement, like continuous improvement, is where I want to keep my mindset. And it's hard to. It's hard to do that. It's like you have these beautiful little babies, and before you know it, like mine, they're 26 and 22 years old, and you're like, I didn't even see it happen, but look at all of this growth, you know? That's what recovery is feeling like right now. Like, uh, somebody in my recovery, sobriety sent me a message yesterday and asked me, how are you doing? And my answer, I wanted to answer, I'm the same. I'm the same. And then I thought better of that because I thought that was kind of a poopy response. So I thought for a minute, I thought, I'm not the same. I'm not the same. I'm not in the pain that I was in before. I can actually look at my computer for brief periods of time. I can actually look at my phone and read a text. Now, God forbid I scroll because then we're in trouble and I get very sick. But I have made progress. Like, that's progress. But it doesn't feel like a lot of progress because I still can't do, you know, ride a bike. I still can't walk 2 miles with my dog. And that's what, to me, is what I'm measuring as progress. And what might be a great solution for me that just hit me is, why don't I make that a goal? Like, pick one of these things, like walk my dog 2 miles. Make that a goal instead of making that progress, right? I think that's a brilliant idea, honestly. So maybe what I need to do is figure out what are these things that I have been identifying as progress that I want to check off, and change my perspective on my recovery a little bit so that I can embrace slower progress. I can take these things that I want to do, like walk 2 miles with the dog. Um, you know, I can't think of another one right now, and make that the goal so that when I walk a half a mile, then I can say I just made progress. Because if I'm just sitting here waiting to be able to walk 2 miles, I don't know that I'm going to get there because I'm not trying to, like, I'm not actively working towards doing that. I'm just walking around the block each day to walk my dog. So interesting. I thought of that as I was speaking here. Live action happening right now. Live action. Okay. So another analogy that I thought was pretty cool was, imagine progress as a gemstone, like a multifaceted gemstone. And depending on the characteristics of the gemstone and depending on the conditions that they are viewed in, they can look entirely different. They can look, a green one can look vibrant, emerald green, or it can look more of a darker with tints of black in it. And that's really dependent on these two things, the characteristic of the stone and the conditions that it's viewed in. And I was thinking that's just like a person in recovery. Depending on the person, the unique characteristics of the person, and the stroke that they experienced, their progress can look entirely different. Their goals can look entirely different. And then, depending on the support that they're receiving and the medical, attention that they're receiving, then their progress also looks different. So I think that this perception of progress is very much related to that, related to who we are as a person, what our experiences are, and and what conditions that were, what our environment is like as we try to make this progress. So, I don't want to try to aim for the impossible. I truly believe, I think that's what I'm struggling with. I truly believe that I'm not going to recover 100%. I truly believe that. And maybe that's a problem, um, but it just doesn't seem possible to me because I've done everything I can so far. I've gone, it seems like to have a goal of improving 100% is impossible. Um, but I also believe that if if I keep trying to set my goals so far out, like reaching for the impossible, I'm going to miss the opportunity to acknowledge the small steps that I'm taking towards progress. So I think it's okay to redefine my progress to be something a little more accessible from where I am. And that doesn't mean, though, that I don't constantly think about where I'm headed. Um, you know, with my background in marketing and all the things that I was doing before, I feel like I need to use that. But today was a great example of how this news article came out about me, and what I used in order to make that happen was my marketing experience, and it quickly happened. So I don't know. We're seeing things are evolving right under my feet, and I think it's fine to not put pressure on myself to try to make static goals. I think it's fine for them to be dynamic. Yeah, because my entire recovery is very dynamic right now. I don't even know what doctor to go to right now to figure out what's wrong with me. So I think it's fine to be fluid and be flexible. So another analogy I was thinking about are these push-ups that I'm always talking about. I love me some push-ups, and I was thinking about when I had my stroke, I stopped doing yoga. And it was just, there was too much, I had too much pain and discomfort and all kinds of stuff going on. So I moved away from doing yoga. But before that, I was doing yoga every single day at 4 o'clock. And I thought, well, I don't want to lose the strength in my arms. So I'm going to do push ups. And So closer to when I had my stroke, I started doing these push-ups, and I only did like three, 3 to 5, I think. Um, because I was just trying, I think my body was like in shock, and I just did what I could. Um, and then over time, I added another push up, or I let myself go lower to the ground and just kept doing 5 instead, and then just improved my form each week. But the original goal was I don't want to lose the strength in my arms because I had worked so long to build my strength doing yoga. So, over time, as I was able to start doing 8 push-ups, I my goals started changing, because I wasn't losing the strength in my arm. I was gaining strength in my arms. My arms started getting stronger than they were before. And so my goal changed. Did I really deeply acknowledge the progress that I made doing the push ups? No, I didn't. You see, that's where the problem was. And that's what the problem is in my recovery is I'm not necessarily acknowledging progress. Instead, I'm moving the goal, you know? I'm moving the goal. And therefore, I don't really take the time to deeply acknowledge the progress that I'm making. And so today, I do 10 push ups every other night. And I've included, now I do all different kinds of weightlifting also. But that's because I moved my goal again. And my goal became I want to be able to look in the mirror and see my muscle in my arms. Like I don't want them to look like how they've always looked my whole life, which is just like, mom arms. No, I shouldn't say that. That's so offensive to any mother who is like a total athlete. So sorry I said that. But I mean, I want to be able to see structure in my arms. And that was my new goal. And I started to be able to see that. So then I started doing this weightlifting now. And my new goal is for my back to stop hurting. So I keep shifting my goal. And I don't know if that's necessarily a problem. I think that's great. As long as I'm celebrating achieving the thing that I was shooting for before, you know? And I didn't celebrate when I looked in the mirror and go, hey, look at that, badass, look at your arms, I wasn't like, woot woot. I didn't celebrate it. I thought, okay, that's good. Now let's do this. It was just like, check it off. So I'd like to I think just by saying it out loud today, maybe I can work a little harder at celebrating these types of little goals in my life. So what I wanted to get out of this podcast today is really talk through this idea about how wherever we set our destination is what shapes our progress, and as we move the goal, we move the destination, like we're moving the destination based on the progress that we've made, and that reshapes our progress. So I feel like I just get lost in this maze of progress, and I'm never actually celebrating anything. Um, And although I need to, it's about the journey and it's not about the destination. Um, the the progress are like mini destinations, like checkpoints. And it's like going on a vacation across country. You're not just going to be excited when you get to the final point. It's about celebrating each place that you got to go, each place where you stopped. And I want to think about my recovery a little more in that way. Um, really start defining progress for myself. Progress isn't about reaching who we think we want to be. I've learned repeatedly in recovery that what I want may not always be the best for me. Often, when life does not go my way, things get better than they ever could have been had I been the director of the play. As I continue to navigate this intricate path I have um, below me and in front of me, um, you know, maybe I'll have some of these episodes where I'm just trying to figure things out, and that's fine. Just like when I was talking to the reporter, I said, sometimes I'm just talking about where I am and trying to figure things out, and I don't cut things from the episode because I want it to be very clear how difficult it is. How difficult it is to go through this. And my whole purpose for being here is to talk about it, to get it out of me. If I didn't do this episode tonight, can you imagine what all of that mess that I just talked about would look like as it stirred inside my head? It's a mess. And it helps me so much to talk about it, and I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not the only one. So, thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.